to where I left off right here. So that way I know where I left off at. Let's get into receivers and tight ends. Y'all want to hear these receivers? We don't have no tight ends. I got no tight ends on the list today. If you want to grab a tight end, go ahead. But I ain't got no tight ends on the list. None. If you want to talk about Schoonmaker, that's fine. I think Ferg is expected back here in the next week or two, though. I'm not picking up Schoonmaker. If you are, good luck to you. And then I talked about Foster Moreau already, especially if Taysom Hill misses time. I already talked about Foster Moreau. He was the guy I liked. I talked about him last week. All right, receiver. Fantasy receivers to pick up. Obviously, with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua's injury, I think that is the main concern when it comes to like who do I pick up at receiver for the Rams. Demarcus Robinson should be the name that's not available in your leagues, and if somebody dropped him after a bad game this last weekend, then pick him up. Demarcus Robinson, obviously the top target here. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then when it comes to the other receivers here, we have three names. Tyler Johnson, Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington. And here's how I play out these three receivers. Here's my value on them. Tyler Johnson, I think, steps into the next starters reps, right? But we know the Rams run a lot of three receiver sets. And so here's where it gets interesting to me because I think that these three receivers all play a rotation. Tyler Johnson, Jordan Whittington, kind of more the safety valve, PPR guy, potentially slot replacement. I think he kind of fits that role for like a Cooper Kupp type slot. But then Tutu Atwell has also played that role in the past too when we've seen injuries to Cooper Kupp. We've seen injuries just across the board to this Rams team. So Tutu Atwell is another name who's kind of a forgotten name. We've seen him play a starter's role before, has the trust of Matthew Stafford. So I don't know the dynamic. Like, is McVay going to go with the young guys who have earned their role, or is he going to go with some starters who can help protect Matt Stafford and know where to be at all times, no matter what, know the offense and know their roles? But here's how I play it out. Tyler Johnson is the pickup. I would spend maybe 5 to 7. I think that's the high side for me. 5 to 7 on Tyler Johnson if I desperately needed a receiver. Hopefully you don't. Hopefully you don't need to spend that. But that's about the high side where I would spend. He is the upside play. So I think on a weekly basis, he'll provide like upside if he's a starter and he sticks. We've seen him, hit the home run touchdown in week 1. We kind of know like, all right, if he can get the ball, he'll be effective. Jordan Whittington is like the PPR guy for me, right? Like the guy close to the line of scrimmage, probably volume. It's just, will he earn a ton of reps at that position, or is he going to be switching out is my concern with these three receivers. He's a dollar bid. I'm not spending more than $1. Zero bid, preferably, on Jordan Whittington. And then Tutu Atwell, same thing, $0 to $1 bid. He's been the one that's been the furthest down on the depth chart. So he'd be like the leap of faith, like the Kareem Hunt that I talked about with running backs. He's the name value out of these guys. So I think there's question marks with all of them. Demarcus Robinson's the only one I really want to start. But like Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, Tyler Johnson, all three of these guys are just, they're kind of more bench items in case you lost a receiver. They're replacing like your bench depth. That's you probably have somebody better on your bench unless one of them hits in a major way. Okay? With Deebo Samuel being out, expected to be out for a few weeks, Jauan Jennings now enters this flex type realm for me as the wide receiver 2 for the 49ers right now, in a really good spot too. Like, he should see decent volume. So obviously Ayuk is going to tear up into the high-end QB2 high-end wide receiver 2, back-end wide receiver 1 range. But for me, Jauan Jennings steps clearly into a very nice role here as a flex option for us weekly until Deebo Samuel gets back. George Kittle got banged up last week as well. So a lot here, a lot of opportunity for Jauan Johnson, who steps into a role that we've seen him be successful in before. So Jauan Jennings, worth the 5 to 7. I would rather have him than a Tyler Johnson, Jordan Whittington, Tutu Atwell, even if it's a shorter term thing. If Deebo's back in 2-3 weeks, let's say, I think Jauan Johnson clearly is the better pickup out of those players. And then the thing with Jauan Johnson, too, is they didn't say Deebo's going on IR. There's been they don't have to make that decision until later in the week. He said he was going to miss a few weeks. A few weeks could be 3 weeks. It could be 4 weeks and they put him on IR. So Curious to see how this thing plays out. We don't have a lot of information yet as far as Debo goes. This was new today. I think Jauan Jennings is definitely worth spending for. Don't go crazy. But if you need a starter at receiver, I think this is a player I would spend for. AJ Brown is out, and we saw today in the night game, we saw Brayton Covey really kind of take this PPR role. A lot of catches really at the line of scrimmage, not a whole lot of value to me. Reminds me a lot of like a Pop Douglas, DeMario Douglas for the Patriots. Just a decent floor play, but not much more than that. Like think Cole Beasley when he was playing in the league. Not a whole lot more than that. You're going to get 4 to 6 catches. Greg Dortch without the upside. So I'm not really a Britton Kobe guy and Britton Kobe. I don't know how to say his name. Britton Kobe, but Britton Kobe. I think it's Britton. But yeah, Kobe, man, he had 6 receptions on the day today, but like I said, not a high priority pickup for me. He's a 0 bid. And then Jahan Dotson, there was talk that he would get more work in the game. Didn't really get shit today in the game. So I'm out on Jahan Dotson. If you want to pick him up as like a dart throw for the next couple of weeks because AJ Brown is dealing with the injury, that's fine. But for me, Kobe's the guy that I'd be looking at, and I'm not really in a rush to pick him up. Justin Jefferson also left the game with an injury. The Vikings already had Jordan Addison dealing with an injury. Jalen Nailor is a player I've been talking up since preseason. If you guys have been rocking with me, Jalen Nailor's the name. I was like, he looks polished for being a third string guy, and he's going to have immediate opportunity. If Justin Jefferson were to miss the game, Jalen Nailor would become startable for me as a flex or deep league wide receiver 3. For now, he was more of a bench player. You know, somebody I would only if I was desperate at receiver would I start him at flex. For now, he's more of a bench stash for me in 12-team leagues at the moment. And then the last receiver I want to talk about is Quentin Johnston. And there's a lot of, there's been a lot of Quentin Johnston hate, a lot of hate for this kid who's in his second year. And I haven't liked to see it, man, because I hate giving up on players too early. And I feel like that's what the fantasy community tries to do sometimes. And it's like this big, like, oh, he's trash. He's terrible. He only catches with his body. He can't catch. It's like sometimes you got to give time for players to develop. You know what I'm saying? And I think we all want to call players bust after like a week or two. Word to Bryce Young. Sorry, man. That's a whole nother story in itself. Actually, I need to talk about that. But Quentin Johnston, man, I think a lot of people are in a rush to throw Quentin Johnston away. Jim Harbaugh has not given up on him. And obviously the Chargers have not. We saw him score 2 touchdowns this last weekend. So Quentin Johnston worth a $3 to $5 pickup. And if you ever want somebody at $5, go to $6. If you ever want somebody at $10, go to $11. That's the key. The key is, all right? So always go $1 more than what you really think. Don't go $10 more, $5 more. If you're like, oh, I want to spend 10, let me just do 15. Always go $1 bit extra because most people are thinking on the 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. 26 if you want the player at 25. Always the extra $1. All right. So for me, man, those are my waiver wire pickups this week. I don't really have a whole lot more that just like interests me. Actually, there was one more. I lied. There's one more that interests me as potentially even a flex. I talked about this in the offseason. I said, or once the season started, I said, Bo Nix, he's going to find somebody and they're going to provide like flex value. If it's Cortland Sutton, if it's Marvin Mims, if Troy Franklin gets bumped up, I was like, we'll find value there. But Josh Reynolds is a name you're going to get for free and has been the clear leading receiver for the Denver Broncos. Josh Reynolds, and it's a name from Detroit. We've seen him have streaky games in the past. He's been a flex-worthy player. Josh Reynolds is a name you might be able to get for free that's not going to be on a lot of free agent waiver wire lists because he didn't score touchdowns and he's not like seeing a brand new opportunity. So he's going to get pushed down a lot of lists. Josh Reynolds is a name I would go to pick up and leave on your bench. He could be literally a wide receiver 3 or flex option this entire season if he's really the lead receiver on his team, which there's a possibility that he is. So Josh Reynolds, I think if I was looking, I'm like, damn, can I just get a 0 bid on somebody? I think you can 0 bid or $1 bid on Josh Reynolds, and you might have a longer starter than everybody's going to go to Kobe or people are going to go to Jalen Nailor. Some of those are going to be like shorter stays. Even a Tyler Johnson, Whittington, Tutu Atwell, some of those are going to be shorter because the player is going to come back at some point. Josh Reynolds might be the guy right now. Just a note, man.